What is going on, everybody? It is the State of the Franchise episode that we do weekly with the Jason Aponte. This is our first episode after a dub, Jason. You were there in Chicago. What's the vibe? How are we feeling today?
Feeling great. I mean, a lot of things. It's basically the best thing possible because last week we are pretty much talking positivity and how things can change, and we'll get into all of those circumstances that are going to change, for next week most likely. But this was a good win. This one didn't really. It didn't feel good for a little while, but then it turned into a win. But Chicago was a vibe. The Bears fans were really nice, man. Soldier Field was a beautiful place. I had a blast in Chicago, man. A great time.
Good to hear that you had a good time. Obviously, the 49ers come out with a massive game. It's like a momentum swing, it felt like, in regards to, like you touched on, positive energy, good vibes, all that good stuff. Absolutely great win. We needed it, Jason. We needed it really, really bad. Um, Before we get into that, the 49ers had made a couple moves just before we got on. They had signed a couple players to the practice squad. Let's touch on that really quick, and then we'll get to the Chicago Bears game, and then we'll get our reactions on that. The 49ers have signed linebacker Tyrell Adams, Christian Ellis, Will Parks, and wide receiver Austin Watkins Jr. to the practice squad. We'll also get guys like George Kittle. We'll get Jeff Wilson. We'll get also your favorite Robbie Gould back. Let's stick right there on those guys. Any thoughts on the practice squad? And then tell me a little bit about your thoughts of getting George Kittle, Robbie Gould, and Jeff Wilson back at practice today.
Well, I'm a really big fan of Austin Watkins. We had a chance to see him at the Senior Bowl, and I was really drawn to his story in terms of his mom working two jobs, a lot of hardworking, traits that he had. So I had always had a soft spot for him. Thought he was going to make it to the roster. Unfortunately, got injured, but now he made his way back. I'm really happy for him. And a lot of the answers that he gave during the interview that he gave with Fourth and Gold about what's the first thing you would do with your contract is, take my mother out to a dinner and tell her you don't got to work two jobs no more. You could just work one. That type of stuff is the stuff that you're drawn to. So very high character guy, very happy for him. Happy he's working his way back. And I think a lot of the kid, because I believe he had like one drop his entire career in college, and he was able to rattle it off the top of his head and know exactly what the route was, when it was, because it happens not frequently at all. So, I'm happy for Austin Watkins. In terms of Kittle, Jeff Wilson, Robbie Gould, I talked with a lot of Bears fans about Robbie Gould, and, I was offering up Robbie Gould for Allen Robinson straight up. A lot of them were saying, no, that's not enough to get it done. No, but here's what I want to, because I kind of talked about this last night on a podcast, right? So if the 49ers don't win this game, then they could effectively see themselves as sellers right at the deadline. But now people are complaining, well, they're not buying anybody aside from the guy that they got from Houston, which I guess we'll touch on in a little bit as well. But here's what I posed to the timeline. What if your trade deadline acquisitions was getting Azeez Al-Shaair back, Ford, Wilson, Kittle, like all of these guys back, and things start to go in a different direction? That's why you needed a win to springboard off of. So what if these are your trade deadline acquisitions, if you look at it like that, or the return to emergence from Brandon Ayuk? What if all of these things in a row are your trade deadline acquisitions, and how different will this team look when they're firing on all cylinders and everybody's back? I think that's what 49er fans should be more excited about, as opposed to, well, they didn't go and get this guy. They didn't get this guy. They didn't get. What about the team has a win? They're going into Arizona and they're getting everybody back who are big contributors to the team. You should probably be looking at the trade deadline in that way, as opposed to who they didn't get from another team.
I think that's a great way to look at it, because the 49ers, they were down a bunch of starters. Again, you've touched on it, I've touched on it. Azeez Al-Shaair has been absolutely next level this year and has really, really elevated his game. Of course, the 49ers missed that against Justin Fields, Khalil Herbert, and the Chicago Bears, and you saw a little bit of that. D Ford is going to be back again. We saw him come out big in the first week and is kind of tapered off a little bit towards the season, but hopefully he gets some fresh legs and comes back. And of course, we've seen the impact of not having George Kittle in the run game. So the hope is you see Charlie Warner taking that next step as a run blocker, and then you add George Kittle back into the mix. Now we're cooking with hot fire because Kyle Juszczyk had his highest blocking grade since 2014 against the Bears. If the 49ers can get good blocking on the edges from their tackles, from their tight ends, and from their fullback, the 49ers run game is back. And I think we saw a little bit of that with Elijah Mitchell. Now, Elijah Mitchell didn't practice today, and I think they're going to kind of monitor him throughout the week. He has the rib injury. But tell me what you saw from the 49ers run game, what it was like watching it live, like all that kind of stuff. Just what did you see this week, maybe compared to other weeks, with why the 49ers were able to get 137 rushing yards from Elijah Mitchell and the rest of the game?
A few things, and you touched on it. This was Kyle Juszczyk's best game as a 49er, hands down. And I didn't need a PFF grade to tell me that. The way he was blocking, and when you watch the film, you watch him chip block on somebody else and then get to the next level. Combo block on one guy, next level, you're there springing Elijah Mitchell open. Charlie Warner, for all of the crap that we gave, redshirting rookies and things like that, he seems to have taken that next step and become that blocking tight end that they want him to be. And you touched on it. George Kittle's coming back. You can't really understand how good this is going to be, especially with how many two tight end formations the 49ers run. One more thing that we kind of talked about, maybe just run behind the silverback on the left side. I posted Elijah Mitchell's graph on where he was running from left to right. They were killing them on the left. And I understand, hey, Khalil Mack's not there and some of their safeties are not there. I get all that. But at the same time, those things in close with the way that Elijah Mitchell, was running, I think that you really did see the 49ers get back on track in that fashion. And it couldn't have happened at a better time because it felt like all of it happened right after halftime when things weren't feeling so good. So this team was really up against it. I was checking the mood with the 49er fans in the stands because there were a bunch, how well they travel. And a lot of them were like, oh my goodness, like already here we go, like putting themselves in a position like what happens if they don't win this game? And for them to respond right back, because what a lot of people don't know is they didn't show this on the TV broadcast. Coming out of halftime, Trey Lance was warming up. And there's been some stuff floated out there about who said what or whatever. Here's what I know with my eyes. I don't want to speculate on any of that other stuff because I didn't hear any of that. Here's what I know with my eyes. Trey Lance was warming up. And basically, if that Deebo Samuel catch doesn't happen and they have a 2 to 3 yard gain there, who knows if we don't see Trey Lance there. So Deebo Samuel might not have only saved the season as of right now, but maybe save Jimmy Garoppolo's starting job because they end up scoring a touchdown there and everything starts to click after that. Just something I want to throw out there, not trying to be hot takey, but as soon as they came out of the locker room, Trey Lance had his helmet on and was throwing the ball around. I don't know what conversations ensued from there, but he was warming up. That's something I just want to put out there. But it was all right on time. Felt like the team had their back against the wall, including Jimmy Garoppolo, and they responded. And I think that's what 49er fans should be excited about.
So let's stick right there on the quarterback discussion because I think you picked up something, and I heard those conversations too. Obviously, I wasn't there in the stadium. I didn't see it. I didn't hear nothing. So taking everything I can with a grain of salt. But it does appear, and you touched on this. We touched on this this episode in weeks past. It seems like Kyle Shanahan was slowly dropping little nuggets of like, oh, Trey Lance maybe would have been in against the Colts. Trey Lance would have been in here. And I think we all kind of understand is that this Chicago Bears game was a must-win game. And if the 49ers weren't going to win with Jimmy Garoppolo, then absolutely you change the tide towards Trey Lance, especially if they weren't able to get the ball moving down the field, especially without a Khalil Mack on their defense and things like that. So my question to you is this. Obviously, we know the outcome of the game. Jimmy responds with his back against the wall. He gets the game ball. I'm not sure if you saw the locker room. Take all of that into account. Like you know the struggle. The fact that Trey Lance could have come in, I think that's a 100% real possibility. It's not like Jimmy Garoppolo is playing lights out in that first half. So How do they move forward from this point? Is it going to be like that every week? Is it going to be multiple weeks string together? What does this do for Jimmy Garoppolo? Did Jimmy Garoppolo buy a little bit of extra leash? How do you kind of envision this whole quarterback situation moving forward?
I think he did, and Kyle Shanahan was great with his praise afterwards. Again, I'm not privy to what was being said on the sideline, and I know a lot of people are saying, "Well, Kyle said this to him about this is simple stuff. Can you run it?" I don't know if that was said, and I'm not going to sit here and perpetuate that and try to act like that's something that was said. But I think that the way he responded, he played a little bit more angry as well, and things didn't necessarily go right. Right, like the touchdown, his first touchdown run, because he's now Jimmy Wheels. He's not Jimmy G anymore. He is Jimmy Wheels now. Was a botched pitch. That was literally like a mistimed. Debo was about to come across the formation. It was supposed to be one of those touch passes where he just lets it go and Debo takes it. But with all of that happening, he still had the wherewithal to get into the end zone, and that signified a guy to me that was willing to do anything necessary, including run the ball in, right? So, which is 49er fans want a mobile quarterback. Well, you had him the entire time. You had no idea that it was Jimmy Wheels this entire time. But no, I was just yelling that at Bears fans the entire time. I was like, get owned by Jimmy Wheels. You are getting owned by his wheels. No, but seriously, but seriously, I think that here's what 49er fans should hope, right? If you're interested in a playoff run, if you're interested in a playoff berth or anything like that, or if you're interested in watching meaningful football down the stretch, even if that means, obviously that could have meant that if Trey Lance was there, then you have to hope that this is a springboard, because Jimmy Garoppolo threw for 300 yards and he took shots down the field. He hits Samuel on that bomb. But what I was automatically at least a little bit impressed with in the beginning was, I think it was the first series. They ran 3 pass plays, which I'm not in love with. Obviously, you get in there, I want you to establish the run. But Brandon Ayuk was in the slot. He actually won on his route, and Jimmy was targeting him down the field outside the numbers. He just missed him. But I like the look. I like the read, right? So there was a little something different about that. And Jimmy Garoppolo really responded in this game. And I think that, look, whatever you feel about going forward, you have to at least give Jimmy Garoppolo this week and say, man, you actually performed when things were not right, and you got the team on track. I don't care about the opponent on the other side. He can only really control what he can control. So for 1 week, Jimmy Garoppolo did a great job. And going forward, he should be the starter next week. I mean, clearly, there's no indication that it wouldn't be anything like that. In terms of what you asked about, do I know if this is what it's going to be week to week? I would imagine if it sputters a little, then maybe there'll be like the offense would have to come out as flat as it did in the first half. And what I mean flat was they didn't punt the ball at all. It was more settling for field goals. That's the throw right there. I liked it. I liked the look and I liked the throw. And again, that's him identifying pre-snap. This is what I have. I'm not sure if he's the first read, but here, like him identifying this and making that throw, I was encouraged by that. I was absolutely encouraged by that. So all things considered, put the swords away for 1 week. Jimmy Garoppolo actually performed well. And when his back was against the wall and he answered the bell, and that's all you can ask for. The 49ers got to win. And good teams find ways to win games when things aren't going correctly. And I think that that's what you kind of want to see from them, regardless of the opponent on the other side.
Jason, I think you're hitting on all points. The reason why I pulled this up, because I had the same exact thought process. This is the second play of the game. What have we talked about with this offense? They don't take shots. They're not challenging the defense deep. They're not, look, you got basically single coverage on Brandon Ayuk. If you got single coverage on Brandon Ayuk, you take that shot all day, every day, and twice on Sunday, because you never know what occurs. And the obviously it's not a completed pass, but now the safety's got to look at the safety, number 38, Taj Gibson, right there. He's got no worries about getting beat deep, not even a thought. He even is sitting on the stuff over the middle. So this just changes the dynamics. So some of the things I agree, like the first drive, it wasn't the best. Obviously, Jimmy Garoppolo missed a little bit. It is just, it was almost there. It was almost there. But those are the things that we want to see in regards to the progression of the offense. And I think, and I don't know how you feel about this, Jason, and you let me know, but it did feel like they were a bit more aggressive throughout the game, even if it took a while to get going. Didn't it feel like they were a little bit more aggressive and starting with this and just kind of finish that all the way throughout, which led to a pretty convincing win when it was all said and done?
Right, like over the middle right there, that's Sanu, right? That's a little bit more aggressive. In the middle of the field is where Jimmy lives, but it's still further down the field. So I did notice that as well too. And I mean, it's really about another thing that I was really impressed with Jimmy Garoppolo is when the pressure was in his face, he stood in there, man. Like he didn't like again, a lot of people's complaints, right? And I know this is just 1 week, but I'm just pointing out objectively what happened. A lot of people's complaints is watch this play right here. He's got a man right in his face and he steps right up into it. They're outnumbered right there. There's a 2-on-1 on Laken Tomlinson, and he sees that and he's able to step right in there. Look at that. 36 and 98 right there. You can't block both. And Jimmy Garoppolo knows that, has to stand in there and trust his arm and trust it and puts it in a place where only Sanu can get it with a catch and run. This was, again, these are things that you have to look at because these are things that are complained about with Jimmy Garoppolo. But this game, he showed grittiness. He showed toughness, man. I don't know whether that was because he was home. I don't know if that's because he kind of felt that, hey, if I don't start doing things now, things are going to snowball out of control in terms of me losing my position. But, man, I was impressed with his toughness. I was impressed with him fighting back. Definitely impressed with the way that he stood in the pocket time after time, even though they got no sacks on him. He was not moving out of the pocket, and I felt that he was doing very well with that, and that's something you should be encouraged with as well.
100%. And I think, again, we've debated this topic all season, and it will continue to be debated because there's, of course, a large portion of the fan base that wants to see Trey Lance. I want to see Trey Lance. I would say, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I would assume you want to see Trey Lance as well.
Yeah.
I think we all want to see Trey Lance. But I think above seeing Trey Lance, at least in my opinion, I think we want to win. We want to win games. We want to be in position to be able to go into the playoffs and be talking about the playoffs. That's the number one goal, in my opinion. And if that's at the hands of Jimmy Garoppolo or Trey Lance at this point, I don't really care, as long as they're doing what they're supposed to do and everything that comes along with it. And so I think that was the biggest thing, at least my takeaway from Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, you can point out all the stats. Yeah, he was the fourth highest graded quarterback on Sunday. He had the fourth highest passing yards, the first quarterback to pass for 300 and rush for 2 touchdowns since Jeff Garcia in 2000. Yeah, it sounds great on paper, but at the end of the day, we want to see an aggressive offense. We want to see Jimmy targeting, standing in that pocket, the poise like you mentioned and we pointed out. That's what you want to see. And so regardless, it was Trey Lance ready to come in at halftime? Very well could have been. And I could see why. I get it. They're that close from just it's got to be an organic switch, as we know. It's not going to be a forced switch because it's not an open quarterback competition. So if it's going to be made, it's going to be made in game. And then we see what happens from there on out.
Right. And then, Brad, I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo can put all this to bed by being emphatic in his play. If he's playing well enough where you can't even make the argument that Trey Lance should be playing, there's not going to be a reason to just play Trey Lance if Jimmy Garoppolo's balling just to do that, right? So if Jimmy Garoppolo goes out there and balls, it doesn't matter. And I want to touch on something because this discussion has kind of been pushed to the forefront because I believe there was someone on some radio station in the Bay Area who probably could have worded this better. He definitely could have worded it better. But
are you talking about Damon Bruce?
There we go. I guess that's his name. Okay. For him to say, I'd rather lose games with Trey Lance than win games with Jimmy Garoppolo, that's not how you should have worded that. That's not how you should have worded that at all. If you want to say, I am prioritizing the development of Trey Lance over keeping Jimmy Garoppolo in, that's fine. But if Jimmy Garoppolo's winning games, no one is going to make a fuss about any of those things, okay? Unless people are just straight up and I don't care what they do this season, I just want to see Trey, then that's your own opinion. But he could have phrased that much better. You can't say things like that. If the team is winning and Jimmy Garoppolo did what he did on Sunday and does things similar, I'm not talking about rushing 2 touchdowns in. I'm not talking about throwing for 300. If he consistently makes plays at the end of games to win games, then there's no way you make that move at this point. And like you said, I want to see Trey Lance too, but at the right time. Everything has to be in due time, and it can't just be to cut off your nose to spite your face type of thing, where it's like, you know what, I don't even care if you're playing well, go sit down. No. It can't be like that. Jimmy Garoppolo has to give them a reason to make the switch, and if he's winning games, you don't make that switch, even if people disagree with it. That's it. That's my little piece on that.
100%, and I agree. I know what Damon was trying to say. But, he just said it in the most hot take form possible because at the end of the day, he's exactly wanting that. He's done with the Jimmy Garoppolo experiment. A lot of people are, but unfortunately, right now that locker room isn't. Like he's got legitimate supporters in that locker room. Again, go back and watch that press game, or that locker room game ball award that he got from Kyle Shanahan. Everyone got freaking hyped. Like people rally behind guys like that. People rally behind guys who are down and out. Their backs literally against the wall. The rookies warming up. The whole team knows it. They all see it. They sense it. And that's kind of when it feels like the spark occurred. It was like, oh shoot, like Jimmy's about to go down, like, and it's gonna be Trey time, and we know what happens if Trey time. We've heard every veteran in that locker room talk about why they want Jimmy Garoppolo to play because they think it gives him the best. It gives them the best chance to win. And there's a lot of intangible things that quarterbacks do that we don't see as fans, like just throwing the ball accurately or making correct reads. It's getting the plays in and out of the huddle. It's staying calm in the huddle. It's having all those kinds of things matter. So I get it. There's a big portion of the fan base that want to move on. I get where Damon was coming from. It was worded really poorly,
Mm-hmm.
and in the sense like no one wants to win. Like no one will sacrifice winning games just to develop someone.
No.
Like, and this is coming from a guy, like from my perspective, I'm huge on player development. 100%. I love player development. It's why I love scouting. It's why I love following these guys from college to the NFL, watching the journey, trying to project the journey. That's what's fun about it. But at the same time, I'm not willing to sacrifice winning in the playoffs for that. So if it comes, it will come naturally. And guess what? Jimmy Garoppolo now has another opportunity against the Arizona Cardinals, a really stout defense for the most part. They gave us some fits. Obviously, they're going to be out with J.J. Watt. But it is what it is. I think Garoppolo, we understand this. At least I think it's his last year. Do you think this is last year? Like no matter what occurs?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another thing, right? So Jimmy Garoppolo knows for a fact that he's playing for his title of a starting quarterback in this league, which I will reiterate time and time again is very valuable in this league. It is valuable. Doesn't matter whether you're the number one quarterback or you're the 32nd quarterback. Being a starter in this league is valuable, meaning that people will trust you to lead teams and be a guy, whether it's a stopgap to a rookie or somebody who is a playoff team who is one quarterback away, and they believe that you can get them over that hump and put them in the playoffs for a deep playoff run. 1 through 32 is a valuable thing. Okay. One more thing I wanted to point out too about this whole Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo thing. There are guys that have been brought here and there are veterans on this team that aren't here to develop Trey Lance. Alex Mack's not here to worry about where Trey Lance development is 3 to 5 years down the line. Because guess what? He won't be here. He's here to compete. He was here and he was brought here to, for all the things that we were told in the offseason, compete for a deep run, possibly a Super Bowl. So that's why you can't necessarily look at everybody in this locker room and say, well, you need to get on board. You need to get on board. That's not how this works. So I don't want to get into the whole locker room politics because I don't know. I'm not in there or anything like that. But you have to remember, some of these guys that are in this locker room have seen one piece of success, and that's only with Jimmy Garoppolo. And then there's the veterans that were brought in here to help them compete for a deep playoff run that aren't going to be here when Trey Lance is actually going to be the guy. So you can't ask them to say, oh, I'm just jumping on board. They're here to do a job and get paid, clearly. And if that's what happens, they will. But that's not what they're here for. And that's not what they would prefer. The idea that a lot of these guys that were veterans were brought in for was help us get into a deep run, help us get to the Super Bowl. And with that, a lot of people have pointed out rookies have never gone to a Super Bowl and won them. Just doesn't happen. So that's something I wanted to touch on there too as well.
Of course, and I recognize that, but also the counter to that is Jimmy's again. Now Jimmy's a special story. He's a special case study. But his first year as a starter was in 2019. Like legitimately played an entire 16-game season. His first time ever doing it was in 2019, and that was off an ACL surgery. And you can argue his development took a step backwards as a result. Now he's been there, he's done that, he knows how to do all the small things. But Jimmy Garoppolo was playing like a rookie in 2019, and the 49ers still were able to go to the promised land, or right close to hitting the promised land, but we understood why. We had
Right.
elite
And
defense
yeah,
and all that those other things.
another thing too, Brad. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. The other thing too is that Jimmy is a special case when it comes to that, right? Because the stigma coming off of him was, oh my God, he's from the Patriots. He never loses games. He was never treated like a rookie in 2019, even if that was his first real year. So I guess that's the only pushback I would give. But you're absolutely right. It was his first year as a starter, but it wasn't his first time in game action rookie. So I guess that's the bit of the difference. And again, stigma and reputation is a big thing. Everyone was assuming, oh my goodness, the second coming of Brady. Look at him command that line, especially in 2017. Look at him walk in the building, command this team, win 5 games in a row. First team to ever go 1-10 and then finish at 6-10. Why? Because of 2017 Jimmy Garoppolo, right? And then 2018, obviously he gets injured, and then everyone says, okay, he's just injured. And then 2019 is like, okay, now you're in the saddle for your first year. So I agree with you on that point, but I think that his reputation is just a little bit different than obviously Trey Lance, who hasn't played competitive football for a long time.
You're 100% right on that. That's 100% the correct way of looking at it. Niners chatter says Kyle playing 40 chess, 2 QB system. If Jimmy stutters in moment of truth, we got Trey. How do you? I mean, we kind of touched on this a little bit last week, but the more we can ride with Jimmy and just ride with what he's capable of, you don't know what happens. We understand. We were just talking about 2019. We're talking about the ACL injury. We've talked about injuries. Jimmy's already missed a game this year, so who knows? Like just like last week, just like it looked like on the sideline, it looks like Jimmy Garoppolo could come in at really any time. DJ, my guy, tell him how are there 100 now? We got 163 people in here, only 37 likes. You know the vibes. You know we got what we got to do to get this thing juiced up. Hit that like button, get this thing rocking. Let's get some people in here because I'm sure they're going to like to hear Jason's input on this next topic. We've talked about it a lot, Jason, since we started doing these shows. Brandon Ayuk, just tell me a little bit about what you saw when you were in Chicago, the vibe from Brandon Ayuk. I know you've gone back and watched the tape. Just tell me what you saw from Brandon Ayuk this game.
Well, first I want to preface this with a little nugget that I feel like kind of flew over everyone's head this weekend, or at least it flew over my head. It's something that I pointed out on Twitter from Matt Mayoko. This is a great little nugget. Matt Mayoko actually kind of broke down what exactly was going on with Brandon Ayuk in his mind in terms of what does Kyle Shanahan mean about being a pro? What does that mean? What does that mean? So basically, the way he put it was everybody has GPS trackers inside of their equipment, and looking at how fast he was running routes, how hard he was running routes, the blocking, all that stuff, it didn't fit what Kyle Shanahan wanted. And apparently the teammates knew. So listen, I have to apologize. I have to listen to what Mayoko's saying because I believe him. Because for this entire time, I've been saying, oh my God, what is Kyle Shanahan doing? He's mismanaging this guy. He's putting him in the doghouse. But if the guy is not doing what professional wide receivers do and what is expected, which is running hard every route, even if the ball's not coming to you, making sure that you're blocking as best you can, making sure that you are being a team player and a consummate professional, then this is why I have to apologize, because this is exactly what Kyle Shanahan was talking about. So now when you come off of that and you hear what Kyle Shanahan said after the game, this was the game that it felt like Brandon Ayuk put it together. And you saw it, right? He wins on that route, even though the ball doesn't go to him on the second play. That 2-point conversion was electric. That looked like the guy who did that to Tre'Davious White and other guys all year in his first year. So yes, I have to apologize because there was something else going on. It was not just what we thought about, man, Kyle's mismanaging again. This is a Pettis situation all over again. He expects you to take a leap. He expects you to be in your second year at a certain place. You weren't there. Now you are. And that's what I'm talking about with trade deadline acquisitions. If the 49ers are able to get Brandon Ayuk from last year back now, and maybe it took a little bit longer than we wanted to, that's a hell of a trade deadline acquisition. Don't tell me about Odell Beckham or anybody else at this point. If Brandon Ayuk can be that guy right now and he's already in your building, I just thought that was really interesting, and it really sheds light and talks a little bit more about the bigger situation. In terms of what we saw in Chicago, you pointed it out beautifully. That man ran across the field and gets Elijah Mitchell 10 more yards on a block. And that's what you're talking about. That's what Kyle's talking about. That sort of hustle. And to hear Kyle Shanahan after the game come out and praise him and say, that's the guy we were looking for, that's your confidence builder. You keep building on that. And like I said, if you can get Brandon Ayuk to be anywhere near the level that he was in year one now, that's your trade deadline acquisition. That's what you should be excited about with this team going forward, because Lord knows when you start to look at these games going forward, Arizona, the Rams on Monday Night Football, you are going to need all hands on deck on offense to continue to win games here. So I really was impressed with Brandon Ayuk in this game. Looked like the guy very much that we saw from last year that we all expected to just be here week one.
I absolutely loved it because we're talking about like Brandon Ayuk, like he's back. Brandon's back. Dude had 4 catches. Pedestrian stat line. He had the nice 2-point conversion. It wasn't bad, but like that, I love that. I love because it was that. It was the effort that we saw. It was the effort in the route running, even on the play where he had the slant inside where Jimmy hit him over the middle for the 2-point. He sold that route really nice. Even the defensive back was giving him the inside release, and he didn't just take the inside release, give the defensive back an opportunity to undercut the route, maybe get a pick, get good leverage, whatever. He sold the outside route and still tried to work that leverage to get the DB's hips all messed up, and then nasty cut back inside, wide open, no safety help over the top. Easy for Jimmy to find him. So we saw the effort not only as a passer, but we saw it in the run game. It was a lot of fun to watch because I think those were the things that the 49ers were missing up until this point. They were missing those small things, those small details that actually have a bigger difference on things. Again, a little chip, and if that means 3 extra yards, those 3 extra yards are a lot. That means a lot, even though it doesn't sound like a lot, but it could change the way you're calling a 2nd and 7 versus a 2nd and 5, 2nd and 4 kind of situation. It changes what becomes available to you. So when Brandon Ayuk is busting all over the place. Charlie Warner is all over the place making blocks. Juice is all over the place making blocks. Everyone's doing their job for the most part. It was really, really good to see. So how do you kind of see Ayuk's projection? Again, you made the great analogy. I like that you keep coming back to this. It's kind of like we're working on house money a little bit because we have guys that haven't performed up until this point, and we have guys that are hurt. There's no big splash Odell Beckham coming through that door, at least in the form of a trade. And there's a lot of issues going on there, and I think we got to worry about our issues first before we can bring a player of that caliber into the mix. Maybe it happens down the road, but with everything starting to take those progressions forward. Again, you're getting Kittle back, but you're getting the guys stepping up, the Warners, the Ayuks, the Elijah Mitchells. It really is parlaying itself into this really solid momentum. And how do you feel like that was your vibe when you're watching the overall performance? Now we'll get into the defense in a second, but when you're looking at the offense, and I think you and I might feel the same in regards to the issues that have been plaguing this team from week one, is something with Kyle, Jimmy, and a trickle down as a result. Do you feel like even though with the potential of Trey Lance coming in at halftime, him warming up, they're almost kind of numb to this now, the quarterback thing? Like, it's just like, it is what it is. Like, we're not going to stress about it. We've already stressed about it in weeks past. We just got to go out and play our game. We understand the NFL is a business. We understand that there's the rookie on this team. The fans are going to want him. Hell, even our coach might want him. Do you think that can bind them together and kind of catapult them into executing a little bit better?
That's what I mean. Like, everything felt stagnant, and it felt like, oh, here we go again, right? It almost felt like the Colts game. It almost felt like the Seattle game in terms of they're leaving points on the field, and they couldn't stop the Bears. They could not stop the Bears. And we'll talk about our Prince in a little bit because I got a lot of things to say about him. But it's more about, you have to hope that this all kind of comes together at the right time right now. And this is what I was going to say about Brandon Ayuk and why he's going to be so necessary. When they played the Cardinals the last time, Byron Murphy didn't play. Marco Wilson didn't play. Those are important pieces. And you can bet that everybody's seeing the way that Deebo Samuel is catapulting himself into the top 10 wide receiver conversation. That play felt like not only did he change that game, that is one of those plays that you can look at if the season goes the right way and say that was the turning point right there. That really changed the trajectory of not only that game, but our season. So you have to get all these things going because Arizona is super talented. The same thing with the Rams. You're going to have to put up points. There's no way that you're going to go into that Rams game and be stagnant, kicking field goals and thinking that's how you're going to win that game, because we are going to touch on the defense, which is a much bigger concern right now coming out of this game more than the offense was, especially the way that the offense ended the game. So, yes, you have to hope that this is a game that they springboard off of. And that's why, again, you can't get ahead of yourself in terms of, okay, who's next after this? Who's next? Win the game in front of you, and everyone else's circumstances will change, right? We're looking at Arizona. Maybe Kyler Murray plays. Maybe DeAndre Hopkins plays. AJ Green right now, let me break this news, just got put on the COVID-19 list. So now we don't know if AJ Green's going to play. So again, everyone's circumstances change week to week. This is a very much week-to-week league. I know that's cliched, but the 49ers did exactly what they needed to do. Be 1-0 at the end of the week, go into the next week, and then do the same thing over and over, because no team is going to be the same. Listen, the 49ers have had horrible injury luck. Horrible. Maybe it's going to start to happen to other people. You don't wish that, but that's just the nature of the beast in this league. And that's why you can't give away games. And that's why you can't give up, because you never know what's about to happen. The 49ers came into this game one game out of the playoff spot. They are a half game out of the playoff spot, and the seventh seed is the Carolina Panthers, who look like they're going to have to start PJ Walker this week. Do you feel certain that they're going to be the team that's going to be there? No, this thing is wide open right now at this point. Stack those wins, go week to week, and you'll end up where you end up, man. And everyone else is going to have their circumstances change. Injuries are starting to pile up. It's already getting into week 9, week 10. This is when it gets hard because guys are taking those beatings. These injuries pile up. Win the game in front of you. Go forward week to week, and you have to hope that this is the game that they kind of just turn the switch and they felt like they were up against the wall and they were actually able to come back and win the game.
On freaking point, Jason. With Deebo Samuel's emergence and him breaking Jerry Rice's record of the most reception yards through the first 7 games of any 49er wide receiver, what has Deebo Samuel's emergence this year done for the offense? It almost feels like he is the offense at this point. Do you feel like he can maintain this trajectory for a full 17-game season? Again, they added one more game. Or do you think there's going to be a nice transition here where Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel might become a little bit more evened out?
Ideally, you don't want to put it all on one player, but they have been putting it all on one player, and he is the team's MVP, hands down. If it's not him at this point, it is Nick Bosa, who is incredible. Leads the league, 11 tackles for losses. But that 3rd and 20 play, that was literally a play designed to just get a few yards and make the punt really easy. And he turned that into like a game-changing play. He's super dynamic, and he continues every time that he's asked to play, right? And he makes a play for this team. Think about week 1. Think about that throw from Jimmy Garoppolo down the field. Makes a catch, makes a play. This is exactly what he looked like in camp. It is completely translated into the season. In the beginning, Brandon Ayuk was, running routes, looking good. Everybody wanted to talk up Trent Sherfield, but there was no doubt in anybody's mind who went to camp and watched every day that Deebo Samuel was not the best player on the field, because he was, and it didn't matter who was in front of him. Jason Verrett was in front of him, and we remember clearly he baked Jason Verrett on a deep post. Unfortunately, the ball didn't get there, but this man is continuing to win. Having said all of that, you ideally don't want to put it all on Deebo Samuel. And if you can find a way to get Brandon Ayuk anywhere near he was in year 1, now you're talking about pick your poison. Pick your poison, because both of them can beat you, and both of them can beat you in the same ways. Brandon Ayuk can get the ball behind the line of scrimmage. Still hasn't happened this year, and still do things like Deebo Samuel. But right now, Deebo Samuel is a different animal. He's a different animal. He's on pace for 1,900 yards. 1,900 yards. I don't know if he's going to reach that, but this number that he has is insane. He's second in the league behind Cooper Kupp, who has 914 yards, and I believe he has 860 or something like that. I could be wrong. Here's the number that I want to point out. Cooper Kupp has 63 receptions to Deebo Samuel's 44. He is second in the league with almost 20 less catches than Cooper Kupp. Insane numbers. Now, you don't want it to always be Deebo Samuel, right? You don't always want it to be that. You don't always to rely on that. But this offense becomes much more lethal when Brandon Ayuk is someone that the defense has to say, where is he? Where is he? And you can't cover both of them. Pick your poison. You ideally want to see both of those guys involved. When you talk about George Kittle being there too as well, if this offense can get rolling in that way, it can start to be that offense that we thought it would be walking in from week one. And that is something that would be amazing going forward, because these stretches of games are going to be super important for this team.
Yeah, and you touched on it. George Kittle coming back, he also is going to provide a little bit of cushion for these guys on the outside, because we know a fresh George Kittle requires safeties to peek on them, whether he's got a linebacker, he's got a slot, it doesn't matter. Those safeties got to know where George Kittle is, because guess what? George Kittle patrols the middle of the field. That's where Jimmy Garoppolo loves to throw. And if you can get Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk working deep crossers, working outs, doing all different kinds of things outside the numbers, and you have a aggressive Jimmy Garoppolo who at least is giving the threat of going deep and being able to hit these guys on top of it, because again, a lot of people like to think about Deebo Samuel. You talked about the yak yardage and what he's doing on limited receptions and things like that. It's absolutely phenomenal. But you also get a glimpse that Deebo can be a down the field wide receiver and make plays. Again, Jimmy hit him with arguably one of his best deep balls I've ever seen from him. I mean, I get it. Like, Jimmy does struggle with the deep ball. You alluded to that in training camp. Again, Deebo was cooking dudes. It was just Jimmy couldn't get him the ball. But if they can get him the ball in the game, that's all I care about. Niners chatter says Deebo in the slot, Ayuk on the outside, interchangeable at this point, if you ask me. Have them go wherever, as long as they are doing their responsibility at full speed. And if they're doing that, I think the 49ers will be in a really, really good position throughout the year, whether who's at quarterback or what have you. The 49ers also, we've talked a lot about the wide receivers, the quarterbacks. Let's talk a little bit about the running game before we transition into the defense. 49ers offense of running game behind that 49ers offensive line with Trent Williams back at left tackle, had 21 first downs, 0 sacks allowed, 467 total yards. This group over the first portion of the year is number 4th overall in pass blocking, according to PFF, and number 4 overall in run blocking. And Trent Williams comes out and is the highest graded offensive lineman of week 8. And then you get the explosion of Elijah Mitchell, Warner. Just talk about the run game and what they need to continue to do to keep developing that further.
Well, let me break some news to 49ers fans real quick. This is breaking news. Hold on to your seats. Trent Williams is the best in the world. Best in the world. Hands down. No questions asked. Okay? That's one thing. But in terms of Elijah Mitchell, I have seen a lot of people with concerns about his vision. For me, I don't really see that as much anymore. I just feel like that was a guy going through the motions as far as reps. You can't expect guys to just automatically be where they're at. And when you pair it with, like I said, this was Kyle Juszczyk's best game as a 49er. And I'll debate anybody on that. And he had no sort of impact in terms of touches or anything like that, but that's not what he's here for. He's here to create those angles in the run game. For him to literally chip, I believe it was what's Robert Quinn right there, and chip him, get to the second level, open it up for Elijah Mitchell. Elijah Mitchell is being everything that 49er fans could have hoped for. I'm still not cool with the whole Mini Mostert thing, but it's all right. You guys can run with it, because again, I feel like that's a little bit of a detriment, or it downplays Raheem Mostert's vision and burst. And that's the thing, right? So, but at the same time, right now, what he's giving them as a 6th-round rookie and what they're asking him to do, he's running physically hard, man. Here's another thing. Here's an Elijah Mitchell stat for you. 3rd in the league with 8+ defenders in the box. He sees 8+ defenders in the box 38% of the time per Next Gen Stats. He is only behind Christian McCaffrey and Mark Ingram. Now, Christian McCaffrey hasn't played in a while, but obviously when you look at the 3 teams, right? The Panthers, why would you load the box? Because you're just trying to stop Christian McCaffrey. Ingram, who is now on the Saints, he was on the Texans. You load that box because you don't trust Davis Mills or anything like that. Their rush yards over expected were negative. I believe for Christian McCaffrey, it's negative 74 yards. For Mark Ingram, it was negative 49 yards. For Elijah Mitchell to see 8 plus in the box 38% of the time. His rush yards over expected are 79 yards. I don't know how that's possible. And the person that's right behind him in terms of 8+ in the box, Mr. Derrick Henry. That is one of the most impressive stats to me. That is what jumped out at me, because what the 49ers are built to do is run the ball when you know they're going to run the ball. Now we dare you to stop us. You can't stop it. And Elijah Mitchell is being the engine behind that. Right now, behind Najee Harris, I believe he's only about like 45 or 50 yards behind him with 40 less carries. It's unreal what Elijah Mitchell's doing. Unreal.
And it's great because he's a 6th-round rookie. Again, house money. We're all thinking Trey Sermon. Again, we've talked about it many times. Trey Sermon was the one splitting reps with Mostert in training camp. I was like, oh no, the Mostert decline is coming, because it was Raheem Mostert in the very first rep of team periods. The second rep, it was Trey Sermon, like clockwork, every single day. And that drafted Sermon everywhere in fantasy, because I was like, we know Mostert has an injury history, so whoever is that next guy in line has an opportunity to just bust it wide open. Unfortunately, Trey Sermon hasn't been that guy, but at this point, like we said, we're worried about winning at this point. And if Elijah Mitchell is going to give this team the best opportunity to win, we're absolutely fine with that. And he has been doing that. And I agree. His vision, I've seen the tweets, I've seen other things about his vision being like, oh, it's a big issue. It's not. There are instances on tape where you could say, you could have taken that angle a little bit better. But that will get there. And that just comes with time. That comes with repping it. It comes with experience. He's got the baseline intangibles. He's got the baseline skill set to be a phenomenal running back in this league. That stuff will come. And still, 137 yards, 135 of them came after contact. It's what are we talking about, man? But with Elijah Mitchell's emergence, what does Jeff Wilson's return do to Elijah Mitchell? Is it still the same kind of Elijah Mitchell's your base down back, first and second down, and rather than JaMycal Hasty coming in as the third down back gadget guy, is that Jeff Wilson's role, or do you see it more of a balanced room in general?
So I think I've touched on it here, or on my own pod, but I always point to 2019. And everyone disliked that Tevin Coleman was the starter, right? When Raheem Mostert was, dominating. But Jeff Wilson can be that guy in between the tackles that gets tough yards while Kyle Shanahan lines up his jab where to attack. So in my eyes, what it looks like is Jeff Wilson can be the early down guy, and then also maybe the closer when you want to run out the clock or you're trying to end games. But it would make Elijah Mitchell's touches even more efficient. So it would bring them down. But we're looking at a situation. Remember, Raheem Mostert would get 13, 15, but he would end up with $120, $130, right? He doesn't need 25 to get that. And I think that's what it is you can lighten the load while still having that punch, because Elijah Mitchell can really run hard, while having a guy who can absorb those hits and not put Elijah Mitchell in harm's way, because Elijah Mitchell is the home run hitter on this team. So the way I envision it is a little bit more balanced, but Jeff Wilson's going to do the heavy lifting in terms of in between the tackles, even though Elijah Mitchell's done a great job in there. But I think that Jeff Wilson, they trust him. They actually like his pass catching skills, because he does run that. He runs that choice route so well, and you guys saw that a lot. And you see that if he's pressed into duty, he's fine as well too. I think that this team really needs Jeff Wilson, because that's what Trey Sermon would have been. But that's the way I envision it. You lighten Elijah Mitchell's load a little bit, because right now he's dealing with a rib injury as well too. So that's another thing you need to throw in there. It's not like you're lightening the load because he doesn't deserve it. It's because you need him to be that guy for the rest of the year. That's that home run hitter. And Jeff Wilson can allow that to happen. And like I said, it's like a boxer with the jab waiting for the haymaker. You jab with Jeff Wilson, you figure out where to attack, boom, you hit that outside zone with Elijah Mitchell, and you're really gashing defenses back close to where it was in 2019. So that's the way that I envision it at this point.
Yeah, I'm excited at this point. Just any fresh legs. Like I love the point that you've made multiple times. Like, this is like a trade deadline kind of a situation. This is house money. All of a sudden, a guy that we thought we were going to be depending on, like Elijah Mitchell, especially when Mostert went down, this is the guy who would slide in typically into that role, but Elijah Mitchell is the one to take over. So they're going to complement each other. Again, fresh legs, keep everyone as healthy as possible as they continue to move forward. And really quickly, before we transition into the defense, Niner Chatter wants to know, do you think they keep Raheem Mostert? He says keep Raheem Mostert next year. But don't use him much. What is your take on Raheem's future, just quickly before we transition to the defense?
I mean, I would probably say that he's going to get the bag from somewhere else, and he absolutely deserves it. He's 30. I would love to see him come back. I just have a tough time seeing where he fits, especially with the emergence of Mitchell right now at this point. And you still have Trey Sermon, no matter what. He's a high draft pick, and I understand that draft capital doesn't dictate where they are on a depth chart, but I think that I think that if Raheem Mostert gets a chance to get paid somewhere else, because someone else is going to want to tap into that, and they're going to take that chance, then he should by far do that for himself. But if he wants to come back on a team friendly deal, that's fine too. It's just I don't want that to get in the way of the progression of Elijah Mitchell, if that means anything. I love Raheem Mostert, and I again, I am one of the big guys who has been saying, please stop calling Elijah Mitchell Raheem Mostert, because you're downplaying his vision. You're downplaying how quickly he hits that gap, and you're downplaying that speed, which is next level. There's nobody as fast as Raheem Mostert. So just because Elijah Mitchell is fast doesn't mean he's Mostert fast, because Mostert fast is different. But in terms of, do I predict him being back? Probably not. Would I love to see it? Yes. But I just don't see how it would actually fit in terms of the development of the rooks.
I'm in the same exact camp. I love Mostert. Mostert's one of my favorite guys. Big supporter of the brand. But at the end of the day, I think we understand and have been able to see they had a trouble just guaranteeing his his special teams contract, which was what, like $2 to $4 million. It wasn't crazy, and basically asked for a trade because they wouldn't meet him halfway because he was the starting running back. Yet they were still paying him like a special teamer, and he just wanted to get his whole cut guaranteed. Turned into a big whole thing. So my opinion is that kind of sets the groundwork for just an easy transition of Mostert will probably get the bag somewhere else. If he doesn't, does that open the door for him to return on a cheap deal? Maybe. But I would imagine there's going to be a team who can see they can still get him at somewhat of a value, but more so than what the 49ers are willing to pay when you have the emergence of Elijah, when you have Trey Sermon still, who you gave up a lot to get. And I would imagine they still have high hopes for. So although we love Raheem around here, absolutely love Raheem, we miss his presence 100%. I just don't know if it's going to work out next year at the end of the day, because they can find a younger, cheaper guy. Again, that's where we're starting to look when we're talking roster building and things like that. My cap goes out the door, and I become an ageist, and I want young guys. I want guys with potential. I want guys who are going to grow with us. So it is what it is. It sucks that he'll probably be out the door, but at the end of the day, it's probably best for him, probably best for the young guys on our team. And it is what it is. And we love Raheem out here. Raheem's one of the best, man. Really quickly before we get onto the defense, I got to shout out the SDS squad, because I see you guys working in those comments, man, trying to get those likes up. I see you guys grinding out, trying to get us some likes to get this thing up in the algorithm. So again, tip the cap to the SDS squad. Damn near best community out here on YouTube. I freaking love you guys. So I appreciate all the hard work you guys are grinding out in the chat. I see you working. Let's transition to the defense, though, because the defense has been actually one of the bright spots. For this team while they're losing. But against the Chicago Bears, our Prince Jason, Justin Fields, had his coming out party. Phenomenal. I was so happy. I was doing the live stream in while the game was going. I had to have the SDS squad kind of walk me back off the ledge, because I was ready for Trey Lance. I was like, oh, it's Trey Lance day. It's Trey Lance day. All that first quarter, I was like, oh, it's happening. It's going to happen, because on the other side, Justin Fields was going bananas. And so I was just like, oh, look, of course, Justin's balling out. Our guys are starting off a little slow, weren't able to convert. It was 3 touch. They were able to get points on the board, but it was 9, which equates to 3 field goals, not punching it in like we wanted to see. But looking at Justin Fields, looking at their offense, understanding Matt Nagy's down, um, also understanding the 49ers were out a couple guys, Talanoa Hufanga getting his first start, Aziz Al-Shair not there, so Flanagan Fowles getting his, I believe, his first start of the year. Things like that. What was your kind of initial kind of takeaway from the defensive performance against the Chicago Bears, as well as I want to hear your thoughts on Justin Fields too.
Well, I think that when we talked about the keys to this game and the problems that the Bears could present for the 49ers, it was all of the worst fears realized in the first half. And that's why it didn't feel good. It did not feel good at all. It did not, because we talked about it. If Khalil Herbert starts to get going and that play action starts to move, and Justin Fields was able to work down the field with the ball and get good reads because of that, right? And this is what I was afraid of: Aziz Al-Shair in the run defense not being there. And this is what, again, was starting to pop up, was popping up. And that's what I guess 49er fans felt so on edge about was, man, we haven't stopped these guys at all, right? And I was worried about it because Khalil Herbert, again, you don't have, when we talked about it, you don't have to have a good line to be a good running back and still hit holes. His vision is incredible. The kid is playing out of his mind. Every week, he just seems to get better. And he was playing very well last week. And that's the thing. Justin Fields was building off that. It felt like, now you could tell me if it's wrong, it felt like he had something that he kind of wanted to get off his chest a little bit, something that he wanted to prove. Seems like he really wanted to be here. Seems like he wanted to make sure that Kyle Shanahan know, hey man, you made a mistake. And listen, everybody points to the obviously Eric Armstead almost gets his arms on him on 4th and 1, and Justin Fields makes it happen with the rushing touchdown. That throw for the touchdown, that was the one. That was it right there. That was the throw, right? Off platform, 1 foot, able to get it fingertips away, like literally breezed by Norman's hand. I'm not going to blame Norman for that. Yeah, like I'm not blaming Norman for that one. I know that you guys want to get on him and everything, and you're worried about the corners and everything. That literally was the throw. That's it right there. And that's what showed up on the tape in Ohio State. Off platform, accurate at all 3 levels of the field, then creating havoc with his legs. See, the 49ers have done a great job in limiting rushing quarterbacks. Remember, Kyler Murray had 1 rushing yard. Russell Wilson had 26. Justin Fields ran for 103. They missed Aziz Al-Shair. And I'm not going to blame anybody else. 2 players really stood out. 3 players stood out for me on defense. 3. Obviously, Nick Bosa, he's incredible. If you had any doubts that he was going to be fine off of this ACL, I don't know what to tell you at this point. 11 tackles for loss, leads the league. Samson Ebukam finally has put it together, and they were talking about he was working through an injury. Maybe he was finally healthy because he had a great sack in this game as well, too, and he looked like he was getting pressure as well. And Talanoa Hufanga. I understand. Listen, I love Jaquiski Tartt, and I was a little bit upset that he wasn't going to be there, but he was flying around, and he was actually playing well. Having said all of that, all of the fears that could have went wrong in this game were happening. They were happening. Justin Fields, they couldn't stop them. Everything was off of play action. He was hitting Darnell Mooney. They have a real good connection. Him and Allen Robinson haven't even picked it up yet. That's the thing. Allen Robinson, for fantasy football players out there, I know you're disappointed, especially when they made the move to Justin Fields. You felt like that was going to be it. But it's really Fields and Mooney. And they were cooking. Like, basically, I believe that Mooney had as many catches as Deebo Samuel. He just didn't end up with as many yards, which was, I think it was like 6 or 7. So, but yeah, all of those fears were realized. And Justin Fields, this was a bit of his coming out party. Stat line, 173 passing yards, 100 rushing yards, a touchdown for both. That's sort of what Bears fans want to set their watch to every week with him in terms of what he can do on both sides. And he was wreaking havoc. And I'll admit it, man. I wanted the 49ers to win, but there's a little smile on my face, man. A little bit of a smile on my face when he threw that touchdown pass. I was just like, look at my boy go, man. There it is, And I again, that doesn't mean that I wanted him to beat the 49ers, but I'm proud of him because I feel like a lot of the reason that I love Justin Fields was because so many people dismissed him. And now people are jumping to conclusions in terms of Fields, right? Like, oh, I already know this guy's better than him. No, you don't. Gather the data.
Didn't a lot of the guys that start the narrative about Justin Fields, the Sims, is whoever who like really drove home he's a flawed prospect, they've all switched their tune, haven't they?
That's the thing. And that's my point. You know, for again, we talked about it. Mac Jones is exactly what we thought he would be, which is a starter. Justin Fields, look, I don't want Justin Fields to be better than Trey Lance, right? I mean, it doesn't matter. I'll be wrong in my assessment, right? But for you to tell me that Trey Lance has played one game in a few quarters and he's better than Justin Fields right now, how can you say that? How can you say that at this point? There's no real way to do that. Keep collecting the data and we'll figure it out in a year or two. We're not going to know after a few games. So that was really my thing too, is I was tired of people telling me that already Justin Fields isn't better than this guy, or already he's not going to have a better career. There's no way for you to know. And this game is the game that you can point to and say, that's exactly what everybody was talking about in terms of Field. That's what makes him so dangerous. He was incredible in this game, man. And it was like you said, we were texting like a proud papa. Look at my boy go, man. And guess what? Best case scenario. Two of your princes went crazy in this game, Herbert and Fields, and the 49ers win. Best case scenario, 100%.
It was fun to watch, man. Like it was fun. I know DJ's in here. DJ, I have to give DJ all the credit for walking me back because again, I was hyped. I was prepped. I was ready to go. I'm seeing my Prince on the other side balling out against the 49ers. I'm seeing Jimmy Garoppolo be okay. But I know I got Trey Lance on the sideline. I was like, I was ready. I was ready. But yeah, you're correct. I think Justin Fields is proving to everyone why he was held up in such high regard by people like you and people like me, and why we still think he has a huge ceiling. That was him scratching the surface of his potential. He didn't even have his head coach in attendance. He's working with a rookie running back. He's a rookie. His offensive line is suspect out of all suspect. He's got young weapons around him. Cole Kmet is nice, but he's unproven up until this point. Darnell Mooney, yeah, that makes a lot of sense why they're able to connect. And if you even go back to that game, remember that really deep shot that Justin took to Darnell Mooney. Darnell elevates, goes over between two bracketed defenders. He should have caught that pass. It hit his hands. It hit his fingertips. And as a drop, it was a flat out drop. Perfect pass. Dropped by Darnell Mooney, would have been one of the best throws of Justin Fields' young career, and it would have been a multiple that he stacked in that game. Again, the one you talked about, the throw of him rolling out to his left, flipping his hips, and delivering a dime with good coverage, like great coverage. When you talk about putting the ball only where your receiver can get it, that's exactly what he did on the move. Like, it was beautiful. Now, there's a lot to grow. There's a lot to build on for Justin Fields. There's a lot to build on for Justin Fields, but how does the defense build off of that? How does the defense take that performance? We don't know if Kyler Murray is going to be in or not. It is trending towards Kyler Murray being available for the Cardinals next week. Do you think that was a nice little refresher course of what a quarterback can do when they have legs, the emphasis of contain? Again, we talk about that beautiful run that he had. He makes Armstead miss. Guess who missed the tackle? Flanagan Fowles, who had contain. And then just like that, he's working with free field to run. Do you think there's an opportunity for the defense to really kind of get back to playing more assignment sound football?
I think so. I mean, obviously, it looks like we're not going to have Jimmy Ward in this game, which is much more impactful than we want to lead on, especially when you talk about the receivers. But we're going to figure out, throughout the week who's actually going to be available for the Cardinals. But Azeez is back, D Ford is back in practice, so they'll be there as well too. I would say this, that was a reminder. That was almost a reminder of, okay, this is why you have to play sound football. And here's what I want to say. The 49ers and DeMeco Ryans have laid the blueprint on how to limit Kyler Murray, okay? Because you saw the Packers run with that, and they actually did it. Here's the difference. When you keep contained in the pocket, okay, Kyler Murray's not looking to move up and then bail, okay? Because when he moves up, he still can't see over those receivers. He is trying to just bail, right? So if you keep him in the pocket and make him move up, that's when things get hairy. He's not Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson will actually look up and move up and then throw the ball and then bail. So when you do that and you do what the Packers did, because this is a copycat league, DeMeco Ryans put it on film, and now, oh wow, they limited him to 1 rushing yard, 17 points. Guess what? The Packers have the guys that can scream on that edge and stay in contain and push him up in that pocket. Now, if Ebukam can actually build off of this performance, D Ford is back, Aziz is there as well too, and you have more sound tackling, I don't see the mistakes happening again. But I do think that this was a bit of a reminder, hey man, everything's not sweet. You have to make sure that you're very much focused and you're playing fundamental football and just do what your job is asking. I know that that's cliched and everything as well, but just do what is being asked and make sure that you stick to the plan, because that is how you're going to limit these playmakers. Now let's see how much Kyler Murray's legs really work in this game if he plays, because it was the legs that were bothering him. But I really do feel like the 49ers have laid the blueprint on how to slow down Kyler Murray, because the Packers lifted it and they did the same exact thing, even though the game came down to what it came down to in that game. But he was very much limited for much of that game.
And it sounds like the Cardinals, they're kind of on a little downward tilt. They lost a game. A couple guys have gotten hurt. They've been dealing with the COVID situation. Like you broke the news right here. AJ Green is on the reserve COVID list. Who knows if there's other people that are going to end up on that list after that. So this game is this is exactly what we talked about last week. Get a win against Chicago, get the momentum going in the right direction. And this was a momentum game. It all started with that entire offensive line pushing Elijah Mitchell into the end zone. They talked about it in the locker room. I felt it. It felt like one of those defining plays in your year. There just happens to be singular plays throughout the year that just feel defining. The Saints game in 2019, defining game overall, with plenty of defining plays with the 4th and 2, George Kittle carrying half the Saints defense on their back. It just, when those plays happen, it just gives this energy to everyone of like, that's what we needed. That's what we want. And then the team started to really, really produce after that. And so hopefully they can take that in to the Cardinals game. Any keys for that game? Anything that you're going to be looking out for from the offensive side, defensive side, as they get into the Cardinals? I know you've touched on a little bit of them, but anything else that you're just thinking of what this team has to do to stack a win at home against still one of the top 5 teams in the NFL right now?
Well, I just feel like JJ Watt was a monster in that game. And a lot of that had to do with some struggles on the right side. I'm not going to point anybody out or anything like that. He's not obviously going to be in this game. But in the same token, Byron Murphy, who has been playing lights out football for much of the year, is back. Okay. So now George Kittle was not in this game when Trey Lance started. You could see the run game, even though Elijah Mitchell had some big runs and people were wondering why they went away from that. George Kittle was missed. Now you're talking about building off of what you did, Warner taking that next step, Kyle Juszczyk being what he is, and now George Kittle being there while being a receiving threat with the presence of Brandon Ayuk. I just think that it all plays into the play action. That's where Jimmy Garoppolo is most comfortable. His numbers take a swan dive from play action as opposed to being a drop back passer. So what I'm looking for is build off that. Make sure that you limit Kyler Murray, because I don't care how limited he is. It's almost like LeBron James. You're not going to stop him, right? You're not going to stop him, right? Like he's still going to get his, and you're going to have to live with those plays, but you have to limit them. And I think that for the 49ers to win this game, has to be a similar game plan to what happened last time in terms of limiting him in the pocket, making him make plays. I know DeAndre Hopkins is a little bit banged up. And realistically, Kyler Murray, those throws that he made in that first game were damn near miracles at times. Like one of those was like a fadeaway, and Rondell Moore caught it with 2 feet in bounds, and he was literally out of bounds. Like, that's the stuff, right? Those things are starting to happen. That felt like a team that right now they couldn't do wrong. Sometimes you get in those stretches when it's magical, when no matter what you do, things come up. Let's see if you can do that again, because that's hard to duplicate. So the 49ers should be looking at this in a similar fashion from the way that they approached the first game. Attack that way, run the ball, play action, and that should be their mindset going into every game. I feel like I'm not breaking new ground here, but based on what I saw, that second half, that felt like a team getting into its rhythm, and that felt like a play caller getting into his rhythm. And hopefully that carries over in this game, and that's what you want to see.
This mother spitting, absolutely. I think they already kind of have the plan played out. Like, it's already there. Like, they should have won that game against the Cardinals the first time around. Now you get that momentum back at home, and I agree. I think you just build on everything that you've done in the past and carry that momentum now. That's a little bit more positive than it was going in with Trey Lance's first career start, things of that nature. So hopefully the game plan is in place. Start before. How are you doing on time? You cool for a couple questions?
I'm anything for you, Brad.
Oh, my guy. Um, Drop your questions in the chat for Jason and I. We'll do a quick little back and forth with you guys. I think we've covered a lot of what we think had happened with the Chicago Bears game. We definitely we're very excited about the momentum of this team as they go in to the Cardinals game. One of the questions that I've seen a couple times here, um, do you where to go? Do you think Talanoa sticks out as the starter for Tart with the remaining with the rest of the year? I know Tart went on to IR. He's eligible to return. This was the first week, so in 2 more weeks. What do you kind of see that situation? How do you see that situation playing out?
I mean, it's a really good start. It's a really good start right there. I mean, and I think that the concerns are less about run fits and where he is if he starts to get tested in coverage. And that's the one thing that you know for a fact that Tart is great on. You know, it doesn't give up big plays. So we're gonna find out. If he starts to get tested and that starts to happen, I think it puts a little bit more pressure. But I think that this organization is committed to him. They're gonna go right back to him. It would have to be that Hufanga is playing out of his absolute mind, and you can't make a move like that. But I am interested to see what happens when a team tests him in coverage, because that is kind of what the concerns were with him in camp. It wasn't necessarily his run fits or understanding where he needs to be. It's, can you deal with the ball being thrown over your head or you being attacked? And I think that that's what Kwaski does so well when he's available to this team.
Do you think Kwaski will be back next year, or do you think that Hufanga and or Jimmy Ward, like, do you think that they could be transitioning from Jimmy Ward and Hufanga? Do you think that might be? It's not just, or I'm sorry, Jimmy Ward and Tart, not just Tart, but do you think Jimmy Ward could find himself in that mix?
I think Jimmy Ward's here to stay. I think that he's gotten over the one concern that many people had. I mean, well, there's a second concern about, turnovers. I have a whole other spiel on that, but at this point, obviously he's going to miss this week. And the biggest concern with Jimmy Ward was injuries. But I do think this is probably Tart's last year in terms of, look what they paid him. It was almost like Tart was like, I'm going to bank on myself and then test the market again. Unless they come to an agreement in terms of something in the middle or something like that, maybe. But I mean, if Hufanga shows that he's more than capable, again, let's just put our, my emotional ties aside, because I love Tart. My emotional ties aside, if you're looking at a replacement who can play at a similar level, replacement level at least, and he's that much cheaper, and you need to develop him, and you drafted him, then I think it becomes a tougher decision to bring him back, because it gets in the way of the development of the kid. And that's kind of where I'm at with it right now.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Jamal says we're about to see the real Zach Allen, which is a Cardinals defensive lineman. With Watt out, I don't think he'll be as effective. Great show as always, fellas. You talked about Watt a little bit. Zach Allen was Zach Allen the one doing the whatever, like the Drake dance or whatever it was after the sack. He
Yeah.
actually had a couple good plays that game. Put up, I think, most of his production that he's had this year in that game. So we'll see. But JJ Watt definitely took a lot of stress off those linebackers, those safeties, with what he was able to do by occupying 1, 2 guys, making it real messy in those trenches. That's what JJ Watt's good at. He might not be as explosive as he once was, but that doesn't change the fact that he was still really, really good at making it really, really ugly. We touched on this a little bit. Do we need OBJ, Jason?
No, but the fantasy football guy in me, because I still think Odell is the man and everything as well too. Yes, I would want that to happen, but then you have to remember this, and this is something that I had to learn today, because the trade deadline just passed, and I know that you have to have a certain amount of accrued seasons before you're waived, that you don't go through waivers, but that's not the same rule after the trade deadline. It doesn't matter how many years accrued you have. You have to go through waivers. So as of right now, the 49ers, I believe if it's the draft order, they are 12th. There's no way he makes it to 12. No way he makes it to 12. And you also have to remember, whoever it is that claims him this year, because it's not an outright cut, you're getting him off waivers, you have to take that contract on. So do the 49ers even have money to make that contract happen? And listen, what we saw in Brandon Ayuk, you have to hope is going to continue. And again, that is somebody who's in-house and still cheap, and somebody that you have high hopes for. So I would love to see it. But at the same time, probably not going to happen. You probably see him land somewhere like the Raiders or the Saints or something like that. It would be my guess, because the Saints just lost Michael Thomas.
Which was crazy. I was expecting Michael Thomas to come back. You've seen in the fantasy world, I've seen a bunch of trades going for Michael Thomas because they were anticipating the return. So you're seeing some low end deals be made with the high upside that Michael Thomas was going to come back. But again, they lost Jameis Winston as well. So that's two big hits for the Saints. They're going to need help in a bunch of different categories. Is OBJ the answer for them? Is OBJ the answer for the 49ers? I don't know. And I think the biggest point that you made is if he's on waivers, any team that claims him is claiming his contract. And it is a monster of a contract. The 49ers are out just by that alone. The only way the 49ers have a shot is if he clears waivers, which I actually think could happen. If that is the case, he gets released, he goes to waivers. I would imagine he might actually clear. Now, someone desperate like the Raiders, we understand what situation they're in, might be an easy transition for them. But for a lot of teams that are deep into the cap and built out their entire rosters, it's not that easy to add a guy with a cap hit. I think that's over 10. Don't quote me on that. But the only way the 49ers have a shot at getting OBJ, at least in my opinion, is if he clears waivers and decides, hey, I got a 1 year prove it deal. Let's go. Let's run it back. We'll see. I don't think that's going to be the case. Because there's still a lot that the 49ers need to get a wrap and hold on. They're just getting some steps in the right direction, bringing in a big personality like OBJ, who is very talented. But again, outside distractions, his dad, it really seems like is a big kind of driver of these conversations with some of the things he's been posting to social media. So I'm worried about Ayuk right now. Let's get Ayuk going. Oh, it would be great. Especially like a year or two ago, would have been fantastic to get OBJ on the squad. Right now, let's get Ayuk going. Do you think Deebo's injury is going to be lingering with the calf injury, or do you think he'll bounce back pretty soon?
I suspect he'll play. Those calves tend to linger, and everyone's concern is, calf. I'm not going to speak that into existence. Calf attached to, whatever. I'm not going to say the word because I'm not trying to put that out there, but it will be something they're probably going to have to manage at least for a few weeks. I don't know if it'll linger for the entire season, and especially when you think about the buys already happened and for how much they're using Deebo, I would suspect that they're going to have to manage it. I wouldn't expect to see him practice a bunch, if at all, certain weeks, and I don't think he really has to. But I think it's something they need to manage.
Jamal says the thing with Ward is people get on him for not forcing turnovers. I mean, I've talked to Eric Davis. Eric Davis, former 49er great legend. He goes on with a bunch of the content creators. Earlier this offseason when I had him on, he was talking about he likes Ward. He just doesn't create turnovers. But you have to take into account he does put the clamps on other teams' tight ends. What do you think? Do you think Ward needs to get more turnover worthy plays, or do you think he's executing his role to what is expected of him for the most part?
I think Ward is great. I think people want spectacular and not solid, because solid isn't exciting. And what I mean by that is the flexibility that he gives in terms of not only just clamping on your tight end. As we saw last year, he clamps Robert Woods. He can clamp your slot corner. That's not something that a lot of teams have in terms of free safeties. Okay. And now I understand you want turnovers because those change games. But just what Jamal said, if he wipes out an entire read, and what if that's the first read? If he wipes that out and makes that quarterback go somewhere else and the pressure's coming, that stuff means something. He may not contribute to a turnover, but he'll contribute to a sack, a hurry, a pressure. And what if, here's the thing, what if he clamps on the read and someone hits the quarterback and it's a fumble, or he throws a pick somewhere else? How is that not part of him doing that? So that's what I think is kind of missed when you talk about turnovers. Turnovers aren't just the person who gets the ball. That just means you might be in the right place at the right time. You have to look at it in the context of everything. If you take away that read and it allows that extra second for that edge defender to get there and he causes the turnover, or someone else gets it, you have to give him his credit as well too. Not many teams have that. And when you say erased, that's exactly what he means. Erasing that man from the play, and that is valuable.
100%. And some of the things that Jimmy Ward has been doing this year, there would be a lot more touchdowns on that defense if it wasn't for Jimmy Ward being the last line of defense, being a sure tackler. One of the things that Jimmy Ward is really, really good at is squaring up in the open field when he is an athletic person running at him with yards on left, right, all over the place. And what Jimmy Ward is really, really good at, he's really good at breaking down, understanding his leverage, and making these shoestring tackles that save touchdowns. Again, which I can't remember which game it was exactly, but he had a huge effort play where he tackled the guy on the 1 or the 2 yard line before going into the end zone. They don't score on that series because the defense held up. They either got a turnover or forced 4 and out. I don't remember exactly the game or the scenario. I just remember Jimmy Ward made a huge effort play to not give up, get the tackle before, rather than just being like, oh, it's a touchdown, whatever. He was able to make that play. Defense held out and stopped them. No points. Ended up being a massive, massive momentum swing in that particular game. So I think we're both kind of on that same page. Ward does a lot for this team. It might not translate into the turnover numbers that everyone likes to reference when talking about the best in the league, like things like that. But he does a lot of things really, really well and really, really serviceable. So we're getting close to a minute third or hour 30, so I think it would be a good time to kind of ramp up towards closing this thing down. I've loved this conversation today. It's been a lot more fun talking the state of the 49ers franchise after a win, much more than 2 consecutive losses, or it was actually 4 consecutive losses at that point. What, before we head out of here, Jason, anything else on your mind that you just wanted to kind of to talk about and get off your chest before we get out of here? Anything about the 49ers and how they need to continue to build this momentum for the future?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of touched on it. You know, that's going to be the game plan going in, no matter who it is. I mean, obviously it'll change if it's not a mobile quarterback, but in terms of just running the ball, getting back to that, to building from the trenches, and if this pass rush can ramp up just a little bit outside of Nick Bosa, things are going to get better. And just take it week to week. And my advice for 49ers fans is, you know how long it felt for a win to be here? Enjoy the week. Enjoy the week a little bit, enjoy the win, and then get ready to go for Arizona. Put the pitchforks away for a little bit. Even if you have complaints about the team, chill out a little bit and enjoy this win, because it felt like a long time. 4 straight losses, and I think that little sigh of relief that you saw in that press game and that post game thing with Kyle Shanahan, and that's how you should feel. Relax, enjoy this one, and then we'll get right back in the saddle. Start looking towards Arizona tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday. We're going to start to learn a lot more about who's going to be available, who's practicing, what Cliff Kingsbury is saying about who's going to be actually making the game. And, from all the practice reports today, Trent Williams and Deebo Samuel are not going to be practicing, but they should play. Neither of them need to practice in my eyes to play, but Azeez Al-Shaair and D Ford will be back in this game. They're going to be needed as well too. So I just enjoy the win. If you have complaints, save them for another day or another week. But right now, just enjoy the game, enjoy the win, and look forward to hopefully this being a springboard win for the 49ers, so they can start moving in the direction that we all thought that they would be in at the beginning of the year.
Absolutely. And as we get out, I want the entire Sourdough squad to wish Jason Aponte a early happy birthday.
Wait, what? Wait, no, don't start putting that out there. No, man, my birthday is not. What? No, man.
Because my guy is a legend out here in these streets. I want you guys to give him all the appreciation in the world. Please tell them, Jason, where to find you and more of your work, because we need more. Follow he's got a podcast, Twitter, all of it. Tell him exactly where to find you.
I can't believe you leaked my birthday, man. It's not. No, don't start. It's not for 2 more days, guys. We're good. No, no. I appreciate the love, man. Yeah, at Jason Aponte 2103 on Twitter, Jason Aponte on YouTube is where you can find all the content as well too. But Brad, I appreciate you, man. I wish I could make it out there, but I really got to start spending time with the little one. That's probably what I'm going to do this weekend, and hopefully I get a birthday win, against the Cardinals on Sunday. So appreciate you, and I always love doing these shows. And yeah, it's absolutely easier to do these when the 49ers win, and especially when the 49ers win and our Prince plays very well too. Also, by the way, I did get a little bit of an early birthday gift. Shout out to my guy AC on Twitter. He actually got me a Justin Fields jersey. It is clean.
It's
I
so
probably
spicy.
yeah, I probably won't wear it just so I don't get called out for being like a fake fan or anything like that. But I already have it, and it is beautiful. And I wish Justin Fields all the best luck as long as he's not playing the 49ers. That's it.
Absolutely. I had to put you on the spot, my guy.
Thanks a
Because
lot,
we
Brad.
just want all the good vibes coming at my guy. Thank you guys, as always, for watching. Again, Sourdough Squad is freaking undefeated. You guys grinded for those likes. You got us up to about 275, I think, at one point. Your efforts are absolutely appreciated. So, of course, thank you, as always, to the Sourdough Squad for tapping in with us, watching, and we got some good momentum, and we're going to continue to build that into the next week. And again, hopefully next Wednesday on the State of the Franchise episode with Jason Aponte, we got more good vibes, we got more good energy, and we're talking about, we're 500 now, and we're talking about how do we take down those Rams that just traded for Von Miller and continue to think that the salary cap doesn't exist. It is what it is. But we'll see what happens this week and how that parlays into the Rams game. Jason, thank you as always. Sourdough Squad, you guys are the best. Until next time,